everyone here as we have our August meeting of the Tobacco Settlement Agreement Fund Oversight Committee. I'd like to begin asking Representative King if she would mind leading us in a prayer and the pledge, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Please join me. Dear God, it's an honor to just pause for a moment mid-afternoon and come before your presence, asking you to be with us as we go over this information and give us clarity of mind and just help us to process the information and do the best for the people that we all serve. Dear God, I lift up all of the exhibitors and the students and everyone participating in the state fair over the next 2 weeks. Give them traveling safety and just be with them while they're there. And we'll give you all the thanks and the glory for all of these things. In Jesus' name, amen.
Ask everyone to rise as Representative King leads us in the pledge. Ask the clerk to call the roll, please.
Senator Rocky Adams, Senator Boswell, Senator Deneen, Senator Harper Angel, Senator Webb, Representative Brown, Representative King,
Present.
Representative McPherson,
Here.
Representative Pratt, Representative Works, Co-Chair Mays Bledsoe, and Co-Chair Dossett.
Present. If we have one more member that comes in, and it looks like we do, we will wait just one moment and we'll move on our minutes.
We don't. Quorum 7.
We still don't have a quorum. If we have one more member arrive, we will return to our minutes. I'd rather you stay where you are, Brandon. We will begin right now. We'll ask Brandon Reed, the Executive Director of the Kentucky Office of Ag Policy, and Bill McCloskey, the Deputy Director, to please introduce yourselves, and you can begin your presentation.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, members of the wonderful Tobacco Oversight Committee. It's so good to see you all, friendly faces, and appreciate what you all do for the Commonwealth of Kentucky. And we'll jump right in. So you notice I'm wearing my polo shirt. So the Kentucky State Fair has started this morning. We had a commodity breakfast this morning, and we have a new tent that's up, new designs. Really huge crowd. We had some members. Brian, you was there this morning with us, and just a wonderful event. And we also kicked off the state fair with the ribbon cutting. It's the 120th Kentucky State Fair, representing and impacting the 120 counties. So that's kind of the theme. So I hope everyone comes out. I know a lot of you all will be there next Thursday for sure. But please come on out, bring your kids and grandkids, and enjoy the festivities. We also have a new ag lane. We have an obstacle course this year. And the really unique thing about the obstacle course is that as the children go through the course, and they do different obstacles, they get food credits. And so it's kind of like working on the farm, and then you get paid for working on the farm, and then they'll take those credits and they'll go next door, and we have a little farmer's market, and they can use those credits to buy apples and fruits, or we have different things they can purchase. Or they can actually take those credits and go outside the commodity tent and get a discount on a pork burger or something like that. So it's really cool what we've done this year. But come on out and join us, Department of Agriculture. And Jonathan Shell is really excited about this year's fair, and it's really kicked off really big. He also had an event last night. It was the first annual commissioners dinner before the state fair, and this year he wanted to acknowledge and all the proceeds went to CASA. And I know you all put a lot of time into CASA and through the budget process, and I know a lot of y'all in your communities understand what they do for our communities and the children in the community. So we, because of that, we was able to help over 700 kids that normally wouldn't get to go to the state fair or never been to the state fair. They're able, through their families and volunteers, able to come to the state fair. They're able to get in, get free parking, free admission. discounts to food, discounts to rides, and it's really exciting. We've already got some feedback like this is awesome, and this truly helps out what we're trying to do. So that was an exciting event last night, and good food, wasn't it, Bill?
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. So if you notice there, agriculture is like economic development. A couple of highlights from last month. You see Commissioner Shell there signing the dairy proclamation. Down there below, you'll see we did a West Kentucky tour a couple of weeks ago. There you'll see us in the studio of Alan Watts. And Mr. Chairman, I know you know who that is, and I'm sure you've been in that studio a few times. So WKDZ there, and just had a wonderful event going in there. You see Commissioner Shell promoting the State Fair and other entities that we are doing. There's Executive Director Jay Hall talking about Kentucky Proud, and I got to give him an update on what we do here, what we every day through the Kentucky Office of Ag Policy. So it was a wonderful time. But went to Madisonville, Hopkinsville, Paducah, Fancy Farm was that week. So we hit West Kentucky. So it was a truly wonderful occasion that lasted about 4 or 5 days, and we was proud to be out there and seeing a lot of good people and shook a lot of hands and just spread the word of agriculture. Where I'm really proud is this next picture. This will be going on at the State Fair this year. This is our Sunshine class, and Warren Beeler, our deputy commissioner, a few years ago started the Sunshine class there at the State Fair, where we take special needs kids that is, they can't show animals, or they've never shown animals, and we have volunteers. We bring the sheep in, we bring the volunteers in, and we'll take them through a cycle, the Sunshine class. Usually there's about 13, 16 participants. This year we made a big deal about it, promoting it. We're over 60 at this point. So it's really filled up, and so we're really going to be proud of that event. But you can see the smiles and just what they're able to do, and show the animals and just participate like other kids. So that's really important. So we're really proud of that. And then what I'm really proud of is all the time we have a wonderful staff. And this is already an old picture, and it was only taken two or three months ago out here in front of the Capitol steps. But we've had some changes. I like to introduce in the room, if she will wave her hand, Miss Bailey Sear Crowder. She is our new project compliance manager, and so she has joined us. What, a week and a half?
Yeah.
A week? Yeah.
2 weeks. Come on.
There we go. So she just started with us, and she's doing a great job. And we also have Alexa Sheet that started with us, and she we'll bring her over here one day. She's busy today. And sorry to say, though, I know a lot of y'all know Jesslyn Watson there. Jesslyn will be leaving us in a couple of weeks. She has taken another job, and we're going to miss her, but we wish her the best. She has done a wonderful job, and we have a new employee that we'll announce next month. We have a new employee ready to go that's ready to fill that spot and come join us. But as of right now, because Jesslyn technically hasn't left yet because she's still here for a couple of weeks, we're fully staffed, so we're really proud of that. But we have a lot of work to do, but as you see, all those individuals, they do a wonderful job, and they love every minute of it, so I'm proud of them. We'll just cut real to what we did last month in July. Ag Development Board had $3.5 million in investments, and the Finance Corporation had $1.5 million investments. And I also like to remind everyone, tomorrow at the State Fair, if y'all want to come, we are having our Ag Development meeting there at the State Fair tomorrow. It starts at 10 o'clock. You're more than welcome to attend, and it's at the State Fair tomorrow. All right. And just some highlights of July. We had 3 staff members attending competitive leadership programs, and our staff presented at the 80th Annual Association of Conservation Districts. Had a wonderful time there, and just wonderful camaraderie and the partnership that we have with that organization. We went to 12 County Agricultural Development Council meetings, and the summer interns completed their summer with us, so we no longer have our interns, but I think you all got a chance to meet all of them. They did a wonderful job. They help us put together our annual report, so that's what they concentrate on. And now I'm going to turn it over to Bill. Bill's going to give some approval breakdown highlights, and then after that, we're going to go into Bill's favorite picks.
All right.
All right.
And Brandon's picks as well. So you can see on the Ag Development Board approvals, that makes up the $3.5 million on the different programs offered at the Kentucky Office of Ag Policy. So on the on-farm energy program, we take applications every 4 months, and to be eligible for this program, this is funded out of state funds up to half the cost of the project, $10,000. So if a farmer is making improvements or investments on the farm that results in energy savings per energy review, then they could be eligible for $10,000. The payback has to be less than 25 years. And then you can see there's 16 counties approved for the County Agriculture Investment Program, also known as the CAPE program, so $2.1 million. And as we mentioned in the past, the allocation of the counties this year is $15 million. So about 80% of those county monies, Sean, Representative McPherson knows, it goes into the CAPE program. Then we've also did this 3 deceased farm animal removal programs. I've got a project we're going to highlight later talking about composting of dead animal removals, Representative King. And then you've got shared use equipment, one application for $5,588, and 3 youth agricultural incentive programs, $48,115 funded with county funds. And then we've got the 7 county and state projects are listed in your packet. And then the ag finance, you can see evenly divided among 5 agriculture infrastructure loan programs. So any farmer engaged in agriculture production can be eligible for the agriculture infrastructure loan program, making capital improvements on the farm. And of course then the beginning farmer loan program, which is a priority of both the Ag Development Board and Ag Finance, providing capital access to beginning farmers. Our definition of a beginning farmer would be applicant that has not owned a farm longer than 10 years would be eligible, half the cost up to $250,000, working with the lender of their choice. And of course we work with the federal program, the Farm Service Agency Loan Guarantee Program, to help mitigate the risk with the commercial lender and Kentucky Agriculture Finance Corporation. Okay, Murphy. All right, so the 3 projects we wanted to highlight. First one is the Clark County Fiscal Court. So that's on page 16. So they were approved for $7,250 to help upgrade their composting operation there in Clark County. Now Clark County Fiscal Court has been able to secure close to $500,000 from the Energy Environmental Cabinet to establish this composting operation. So they started back in 2001, providing a free as a way to deal with the dead animal issue, being environmentally conscious about how do we deal with it. And it's just not only statewide, it's a national program on our issue on dealing with dead animals. And counties have different approaches to it, whether going to landfills or having companies picking up, going to rendering plants. But I think the long-term solution is probably composting. We have a couple of counties that do composting. Franklin County has a composting operation here, as well as this operation in Clark County. So over $500,000 invested in it. So they started in 2001 composting the animals and then giving away the composting materials. Now they're at the point where they can sell the composting material as a soil amendment. They do a regular lab test to determine what's in the composting as they're selling it. So to date, they've sold $25,000 in composting materials. It takes 2 people to operate it full time. So this is one solution for composting of dead animals moving forward. Any questions on the composting operation? All right, then next we've got page 19. It's the Orlinda Mellon Company. This is 2 farm families that go back 8 generations, Senator Webb, in Simpson County. Grown tobacco for most of those generations, and so Representative McPherson must be familiar with this 2 farm families in Simpson County, and they realized that tobacco was going to be phased out, and they looked into vegetable production and settled on growing watermelons and pumpkins. So I think it's been 7 years in the production side, and based on their financials, they're doing fairly well with this enterprise. They recently, this last growing season, they grew 250 acres of watermelons, 160 acres of pumpkins, which resulting in, Representative Rourke, 400 truckloads of melons and 300 loads of pumpkins. That's a lot of product to sell, and they have worked with different grocery stores and chains to be able to market the product. So this project was to expand their cooler capacity to a 38 by 38 cooler, and they were able to secure $2,968 in Simpson County funds. The Ag Development Board said we'll match that with state, and then the difference up to a participation loan. So they would be eligible. That'd be $5,936 in county and state money, and then they'd be eligible for $78,064 as a participation loan with their lender of their choice at an interest rate of 2.75. So we just thought this was a good one to highlight with you. When you think about what the mission that you all have charged us with of transitioning from tobacco to other enterprises, you got tobacco. Two farm families got a long history of tobacco and transition away from tobacco into produce. Any questions on that project? All right, then we'll.
Yes, Bill, one moment. Representative King? Oh, okay.
All right, and then our third and last project is Loretto Grain. It's on page 22. So they requested $1 million as part of a $1.5 million additional grain storage to their elevator in Danville. So they were approved back in June 2023 to support the establishing or expansion an elevator in Danville in Boyle County. So the purpose of that $5 million expansion was to be able to expand opportunities for their farm operation, also buy grain, specifically corn from other producers in the area, to sell to the distilleries or to the distillery industry. So gives the farmers in that area growing corn opportunity to sell local rather than going to Louisville, Jeffersonville, to the elevators. And anybody who's driven into Louisville traffic, Representative Rourke, will gladly look at a closer market for their grain. So that the first round of funding, the Ag Development Board did support, and that was back in June of 2023 when they asked for half of a $5 million project to establish that elevator. The board challenged them, county money matched by state, up to $1 million as a loan. So they were able to secure $70,000, Representative Pratt, in county money. That leveraged $70,000 in state, so $140,000 in grant money, and the difference up to $1 million was $860,000 as a loan with their participating lender at 2.75. So here we are today. They came back and said, hey, we need to add some storage. So initial application was 640,000 bushels capacity. This is just for storage because the first one included an elevator. So this application would be just for storage, 320,000 bushels, almost 1 million bushels of grain storage there in Danville for their operation, but for local farmers as well, again, to service the distillery industry. Anybody knows anything about the distillery industry, they don't like to have a lot of storage on site. They like to be able to just-in-time approach to buying grain. And so the Peterson family owns Loretto Grain, has stepped up and willing to make the investment. The board looked at this project and said, we'll do this as half the cost of your project as a participation loan at 2.75. Now, if you're keeping up with the interest rates and market rates right now, they were excited to have that opportunity at 2.75. We've seen on ag finance loan requests 7, 8, and 9% interest rate at this environment. So they're pretty excited about a 2.75 to help with this expansion. All right, that concludes our report.
We do have some questions. Begin with Representative King, please.
Sorry for my previous confusion there, Mr. Chair. It's not about the projects, and it could be embargoed information, but do you have any updates on the commissioner's pumpkins? It's showtime, isn't it?
So I think Saturday at 1:30, I think they will have the pumpkin contest. And believe it or not, they live stream it, YouTube it, but this is the most watched video at the state fair. And thousands of people will gather around for this event, the state fair. I don't think we're going to win this year. So I've seen the pumpkin. Yeah, we're probably not going to win this year, but there is a contest to beat the commissioner. So if you bring a pumpkin to the fair and yours weighs more than the commissioner's weighs, I think you're getting an extra prize or something like that. So there's going to be a lot of prizes handed out probably. So,
well, very good. That's a lot of fun. Saturday about what time?
Saturday about 1:30.
About 1:30.
Yeah, about
Very good.
1:30. I would get there, but I would get there about noon. No joke. because everybody starts gathering around. It's a big deal, and you'll see everybody bringing their pumpkins in, and we're bringing the commissioner's bringing his pumpkin up Saturday. So now it's pretty big. I'd say it's over 300 pounds if I had to guess, but the winner will probably be over 1,000 pounds.
Well, I think that's a perfect example of it just creates excitement and fellowship and unity and participation all across the Commonwealth. And that's just one small example of the activities that bring that kind of camaraderie at the state fair. So
It's a
good
huge
job.
event, and it's getting popular. I also be remiss, but Brian Murphy, he is our staff attorney. So I know y'all seen Brian around anyway, but Brian does a wonderful job, and he always helps us out. And he was here today. I said, come on to the table, that way I don't have to hit the little enter button to make the slides.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yeah. Thank y'all.
Thank you, Representative McPherson.
Yes, I had more just a comment than anything. Bill, I appreciate you just calling me Sean because, as we started out here 20 years ago, and we talk about that, as I drive up through my district and the state here and see projects that these funds have done, it just makes me feel like we did something right. I wish that everything in the state worked as well as this program has and continues to work. And you've been here since the beginning, and how come your hair didn't change in color and mine did? I don't know. But
Genetics, I guess.
I guess I get a lot of compliments on that. And Brandon, you also got a lot of compliments in the last little bit of how well you handle the money and what you've innovative. Where our investment funds are going up with the state. I know you started working on that, and I know you know how to handle money, and that's good because that makes the world go round. We did a farm to table thing at Simpson County the other night and had a big turnout, and things like that just resonate and bring everybody back together, whether you're really in production agriculture today or not. Everybody has a story about working with somebody.
Yeah.
And so we really appreciate all that you do and continue on. And again, I wish everything in the state worked as well as this program does and all that. So I just want to give compliments.
And Representative McPherson, I think you have a farm to table at the end of this month. Is that right? So I think I'll see you down there. All right.
And one of your fellow legislators refers to our program as an international model. So I don't. But we're proud of that you all support at the level you do. So it motivates us to continue to do good work with this program that you all fund.
Do we have any other questions? I want to take a moment to thank the Director Reed, Commissioner Shell, for inviting me a few weeks ago to attend the meetings that you're doing across the state.
Economic development regional
is-
meetings.
yes.
Yes, sir.
And I want to encourage our members as these meetings come into your areas. If you have the opportunity, attend. One of the key things, and we were just mentioning right here, value added to our commodities that are being produced there at home. I know Brandon and I had a conversation a couple of weeks ago. I'm beginning to hear some concerns from our farmers on the price of where our grains are right now. They are nervous that they are not going to be, even with the bumper crop and the weather we've had, it's been absolutely perfect weather, but they're worried they're not going to be able to meet their expenses. And I think it's important we continue looking for these things to add value to these commodities and have them located here within Kentucky, where our growers will be able to we'll be creating jobs here for our citizens and also making sure our farmers are able to continue to farm. But I want to thank you, Brandon. Like I said, thank you to Commissioner Shell for what you've put forward on this.
Absolutely. We appreciate you coming out to that event. I hope you thought it was very beneficial. There was several people there. The next one will be September 9th at Moorhead. That'll be the next one. Then we'll have some more. We'll have about 6 this year. So those will be announced, maybe 7, but the second one will be at Moorhead, September 9th. So thank you, sir.
Do we have any other questions? If not, thank you both all three for being here. We appreciate it so much. Now we'll ask our next guest to come to the table. Good afternoon, and if you'll please introduce yourselves.
Sorry. My name is Jay Nelson. I'm the Director of the Division of Conservation, and it's good to see a fellow Allen County in the room today.
I'm Dawn Basie. I work for the Department for Natural Resources Commissioner's Office.
I want to thank you all for having us today and me the opportunity to talk about some of the good things we're doing with our Tobacco Settlement Agreement Fund, specifically the Ag Development Fund dollars that we receive. One thing I do want to point out, I'm going to say we a lot in this presentation, and when I say we, typically that's the Division of Conservation. We do work closely with the Kentucky Soil and Water Conservation Commission. That's a commission made up of 9 commissioners representing areas throughout Kentucky. So they provide oversight to the programs that we administer in the division, and so all of Kentucky is represented through these commissioners. Go ahead. So our portion of the tobacco settlement allocation, we receive $3.4 million in fiscal year 24. $9 million of that, or $900,000 of that, was specifically for the direct aid program that we have. And what direct aid is money that we provide to conservation districts across the state. All 121 of those. You might wonder why 121 and not 120. Logan County actually has 2 conservation districts. They were the first 2 created in the state. And we disperse that money to those conservation districts to help them to administer these programs and put conservation on the ground. State cost share program received $2.5 million in fiscal year 24. And as you can see in the graph below, that is a graph, that's just a simple line graph of the funding that we've received over the last 14 years. I didn't have room to put back until 2008. That was our high year of $9 million in allocation. And as you can see, it's pretty steadily decreased over the past 14 to 16 years. We had a big dip in 2013. It recovered a little bit, and then it dipped again back in 2019. And since then, it's been at $2.5 million. The dotted portion of that line is the next 2 years' funding. We just started our new fiscal year, and we were decreased again to $2 million for the next cycle. And this personally kind of makes me sad because my position, I'm relatively new as a director. I've been on since March the 1st. My position before this was the state cost share coordinator. I managed that program, so I've worked closely with that program for over a decade now. Next slide, please. For the direct aid, this is a map of the distribution of direct aid to those county conservation districts. As you can see, there's slightly different categories of how much funding they do receive. The commission has established some criteria that's sort of a sliding scale from year to year. And we look at things like how much money they have in their accounts at the end of a fiscal year, if they receive what used to be called millage tax. I think now it's ad valorem tax is what it's called in the new KRS. So if they receive that, they have more funding than maybe some of the other districts that don't receive that. I think the last time I looked, 72 counties across the Commonwealth received local taxes. So there are a number that still do not receive those, and they depend heavily on direct aid that we distribute. So that is a sliding scale. It might adjust from year to year. We also have a program within the division. It's called Districts in Good Standing. DIGS is the acronym for that. And that kind of holds the county conservation districts accountable to a degree. It gives them a few extra points if they fulfill their regulatory requirements, all the reporting and all that's involved in being a special purpose governmental agency. So that helps them as well and helps the performance. And that program has been complemented by other states. It's a very good program. Next, please. So state cost share, this is kind of our bell cow program. Most of you have probably heard of state cost share in the past. It was originally established in 1994, so we just completed our 30-year anniversary of state cost share. Originally, it was funded by general funds and the pesticide product registration fees. Beginning in 2000, it was funded through the Tobacco Master Settlement Agreement funds. So basically what state cost share is, if you're not familiar with state cost share, is it's a cost reimbursement to landowners, to farmers, to put conservation best management practices, or BMPs, on the ground to help with their operations. One point I would like to make, and we're talking about ag development, in every circumstance that you see, every study that's done, if a farmer takes care of their resource, they're more profitable. It should be common sense, but it's true. So a few of the things that we see on this slide, I just want to point out a few examples of these BMPs, just to let you know the sort of thing that we do. On the bottom left there is actually 2 BMPs that we offer. It's a watering system for livestock. If we do fence those livestock out of water bodies, they need another source, so we cost share on that. The heavy use areas that surrounds that, the gravel pad, that's for areas that there's heavy traffic from livestock, so that helps both with erosion and control of the nutrients. They can scrape the manure off these and recycle that on their operations for fertilizer. The second photo in the center is another type of heavy use area that's called our fence line feeder. What we do with that is that allows farmers to put roll bales of hay into that feeder. The animals can come up and eat from that. They don't have to drive in their fields over the winter and muddy up their fields and cause more erosion. And of course, the last slide is the cover crop for cropland applications for soil health and prevention of erosion. Next slide. And I just wanted to provide a few other photos just to give you a sense of what our overall objective is. The photos on the left are obviously not an ideal situation. This is a beef operation that I took these photos in South Central Kentucky. It was severely overstocked. And getting back to that comment that I made about profitability, if you saw the animals on this farm and the skeletons on this farm, you'd understand this person's probably not making a lot of money on this. Whereas if we move more toward the right in an ideal, sustainable pasture land setting, there's going to be more profitability. The resources are better protected. On the bottom right, we have a couple other examples of BMPs. We have the fencing out of the stream, and then we have a controlled crossing for those livestock. When they have to cross that stream to get from one field to the next, we have controlled access where you can gate that off. They don't linger in there. They move. It's engineered to prevent erosion on that. Next slide, please. So in fiscal year 24, the most recently completed fiscal year, we received 876 applications for $11.36 million. We were able to approve 319 of those applications for $3.87 million, and that's just over a third approval rate. We've seen that approval rate since we dipped to 2.5 million. That's been pretty consistent since that. So you can see we really get a lot of requests, even though the farmers know that we don't have that much money anymore. Next slide. This is a map. The darker the color represents more funding that was received by those counties. And when you look at this map, a couple of things might come to mind. So one thing is our state cost share approvals are done with a scoring system that was approved by the commission, and it's in our eForm system. That's our online system. So they're automatically scored. Each individual application is in the same pot as everybody else in the state. There's no allocation to parts of the state or specific counties. This is all a one-on-one competition. They're scored, and then we look at the funding, the cost estimates, and we send out those approvals, we meaning the Conservation Commission. What I look at when I look at this map is I look at the intent of the program. In our regulation and in our statute, it clearly states that animal waste practices are a priority for this program. So what I look at is I don't care which county gets which money, but I look at this and you see the central part of the state tends to get more money. That's where the livestock are. So that tells me that we're at least performing with this program the way the regulation and statutes intended it to work. So to me, that's a positive. But we do have outliers. We do have money going to all parts of the state. So we encourage everybody to apply that we can from all parts of the state. I will give a compliment to one of my employees in kind of southeastern Kentucky in the London area. He's really been doing a good job in recent years of getting you see a few counties down there that are getting some good funding. Traditionally, we didn't get that much funding from that area. So we're really trying to spread this around as much as we can. Next slide. Fiscal year 23, I'm going to mention 23 because these landowners have 2 years to complete their practices. So we still have fiscal year 23 contracts that are still open. So we're still working through those. That year, we received 960 applications for $11.66 million in funding. And again, we approved just over a third of those. Next slide. And the associated map, same map as before, but for 23, and you see a similar pattern emerge in that as well. Next slide. So the next two maps are going to be similar. In the darker the color, the more contracts and or money was approved. But this is for the lifetime of the program, so the 30 years that it's been in existence. And again, you see similar patterns through the center part of the state. Go ahead. And the funding part as well, this is the same map as before, just for the 30 years. So a brief snapshot of our account, our current account for our tobacco settlement funds. We currently have $10.2 million in the account. Most of that is obligated currently. So $1 million of that is for direct aid to conservation districts. Our recent budget passed, we got a $100,000 bump in that. So it went from $900,000 to $1 million. We have $1.75 million obligated still from fiscal year 23. So those contracts are still being worked through. Fiscal year 24 still has $3.58 million obligated in that. That's newer, so we have more funding still in that to be paid out. And then we're required by regulation to keep $300,000 out in a contingency fund. And what that's for is the Division of Conservation assists landowners that get violations from regulatory agencies. And our staff will go out and assist these landowners to get back in compliance, and that's what that contingency fund is for. Next. So this slide, I've already pretty much gone over this, but this is a demonstration of need. Again, this program continues to be wildly popular within the Commonwealth. We still get all kinds of inquiries about this and people that want to apply for state cost share. And since that has dropped to $2.5 million, approximately 1/3 of the funding or applications have been approved for that each year. This year, the cutoff for fiscal year 25 funding will be November 15th. That's pretty standard every year. And the approvals will go out in February of 2025. That's the first time after the deadline that the commission meets. So that's when the approvals will go out. We do have $3.5 million in unobligated funding in that account. And that mostly is simple record keeping and working through 2 fiscal years of the program. As you know, during the lifetime of these contracts, you'll have people, they'll do modifications, they'll cancel. So during that time, we'll have some money either going out more, it goes up and down as we go forward each year. And what we do with that remaining funding each year is we put that into the next year's funding. When we know we don't have any obligations for 23, we'll take the remainder of that money and we'll put it in the next. So that's why you saw in the beginning slides, even though we only were appropriated for 2.5, we were actually able to give out 3.8 one year. So, and go ahead. And that's all I have today, and I would be happy to entertain any questions from you all.
We do have questions. Representative Roarks.
Thank you. I wanted to ask about the slide that has the total program total applications approved for the 30-year period.
Yes.
So 30 years. Can't help but notice that predates tobacco settlement. So can you talk about what was going on in 1994 and the need for cost share program?
Yes, it was funded through the general fund and the pesticide product registration fund is where the funding came from. In 2000 is when we started with the tobacco settlement funds.
So pesticide regulation, again, can you give more context to what the aim of the program was designed for with that in mind?
With state cost share, that was just a funding source. The aim of the program has always been the same. The regulation and statute has been in place since then. We did recently update the regulation, but that hasn't changed. That was just a funding source from the Department of Agriculture.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Representative McPherson.
Yes. Hello.
Hey.
So that same map right there in 2000, when the Tobacco Settlement Master Fund was developed, that formula had, if I'm right, it had some dependency, or it had some formula on dependency of tobacco. Is that correct? When you fill out the application, that's how you got.
I don't recall that. That was before my time, and I'd have to look into that for you.
Well, I was on the original board
Okay.
in Allen County there, and I think one of the questions is how much your dependency on tobacco. But I think that's probably went away in the last.
Yes,
that's not a factor in
No.
the application anymore.
It is no longer a factor in
Yeah.
that. No, sir.
But if you'll watch that map, that also where the cattle's grown is also where a lot of the tobacco is grown.
Exactly.
And so those correspond, and we were trying to make the mission to transfer from one to the
Yes,
other
sir.
and diversify. And Allen County especially has done a big job of that, of going into vegetables and crop production and things that we didn't know whether that would or would not. And then I have
Yes.
one other question, if it's okay, Mr. Chairman. So the $3.5 million that's unobligated, and I alluded to this a little bit to Brandon a while ago. You know, the state now, because we have money ahead, we are getting usury interest on our money, and to the tune of last month, about $37 million.
Right.
And are we using that money, this $3.5 million, or do we have it on usury, like on a daily money market account or anything? Is that illegal for us to do that, or are you all able to do
I
that?
don't know about the legality of it. We do not do that to my knowledge.
You know, if it's unobligated and you know it is for a period of time, I mean, you can put it on a daily money market that you have access to, and you could, on that kind of money, you could generate another almost $100,000 a year as unobligated money if you knew you were continually turning it.
Right.
And you have access to it daily.
Yes,
so
sir.
It'd be something I think you could look into, and just another resource of funds that is just there for the taking.
Yes, and I will certainly look into that. I know we have to keep a certain amount
No,
fluid.
I understand
for
you have to
those
obligate,
things, but yeah,
as
the
long
big
as you can
chunk of it,
obligate
yes, sir.
that and know that you can have access to
Yes,
it
sir.
on a daily basis. This kind of like every morning you can get up and say, "This is where we're at, and this is how much we need." And
Yes, sir.
And we have a money market that's right now. If you look at the money market, most places are paying 4.4, 4.5%.
Yes, we will certainly look into that.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Senator Webb.
Thank you. Sorry, I had to step out. I had my day job, that pesky day job. I have. I'm sitting here looking at 23 and 24 and seeing a big blank spot up in the 18th district as far as programs approved, or I don't know, is there some pending, or I mean, what's the? And I know, you know, through the years we've gotten to utilize the program. However, you know, at one time my district was per capita one of the most tobacco dependent districts in Carter and Lewis County, at
Right.
least. And so I get a little antsy when we're not getting anything back. And if there's a problem with the application or what, I just want to know what the problem is.
I would have to get back to you with specific information, but I do know that when we look at these applications statewide, we tend not to get as many from some parts, like your part of the state. We don't get as many as we would from Central Kentucky.
I have a farm there too. I get it, but
Right.
but it's like, and I understand we have the same issue with Bill. Bill had to come up and basically send a SWAT team to get people to ask for help and build the awareness of the program.
Right.
But if we're not getting that done, that's a problem, and we need to formulate a strategy to address it. So
Yes, ma'am.
I'm asking you to get back with me on that.
I
and
will.
anything. I mean, I've gone myself to our committees. I'm willing to do that again. And I mean, you know. The conservation district's the conduit now in Carter County, and it's just I'm just feel like you know, once again my folks get slighted. So
Yes, ma'am.
and I'm here, and that's not going to happen while I'm here. So thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. We'll look into it and get back with you.
Do we have any other questions? I want to thank you for the presentation. The photos you saw, I've seen on numerous occasions there in Christian County. The practices that our cattle growers have used for the watering, for the feeding areas, and it is greatly appreciated. So thank
Yes.
you for that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you all. Nice to meet you.
For our committee members, I just want to let you know our next meeting will be September 12th at our normal time of 10:30. We'll get back on a regular schedule, and if there is no more business